In this video, I tell the stories of three men called Alban Thomas. One a priest and poet, one a doctor who came by his wife after asking her to marry someone else, and one who built a town. The first was the Reverend Alban Thomas, vicar of Blaenporth. Near the church wall on the south side of Blaenporth Church lies this stone to Alban Phillips, grandson of Alban Thomas. Alban Thomas himself is also buried here, but the inscription is almost worn away. Not surprising, as he died in 1734. He was the vicar here, and his epitaph reads, "A man of knowledge, wit and piety, a faithful and fast friend and a good neighbour, always a lover of the poor, his country, peace and loyalty." He was a poet, translated books into Welsh, and was the author of a ballad which was one of the first books to be printed in Wales, printed in 1718 at Adpar in Newcastle Emlyn by Isaac Carter, the owner of the first permanent printing press in Wales. His son, a clever boy also called Alban Thomas, left the Cardigan coast early for Oxford, where he matriculated and became librarian of the Ashmolean Museum. Then he went to Aberdeen, where he got his MD, and then he went to London to become a doctor, under Sir Hans Sloane, a famous Irish physician after whom Sloane Square in London is named, and allegedly the inventor of drinking chocolate. Dr. Alban Thomas mixed in society, and amongst his friends was one Moses Williams, an antiquarian and priest and Fellow of the Royal Society. Moses Williams was in love with a London lady, whose name unfortunately seems to be lost to history, but he was too shy to actually tell her. Dr. Thomas was a frequent visitor at her house, so Moses Williams asked him to put in a good word for him with the lady in question, which, as a good friend, he agreed to do. Unfortunately, things didn't go quite as planned. She was not at all interested in Moses Williams, but she was very interested in Dr. Thomas. She said if he had proposed marriage to her on his own account, then she might have given a different answer. When Alban gave the bad news to Moses, he found his friend not only resigned to his fate, but also desirous of Alban taking advantage of the opportunity to win her hand himself. So Alban proposed, and was accepted on one condition. He had to have a proper pedigree. Alban was a bit stumped. He wrote to his father, who traced the line back to the Lords of Towyn, and sent back a very long emblazoned family tree and the arms that Alban was entitled to bear. The lady was duly satisfied, and all ended well, and Alban married her. Unfortunately, though, his politics ended his career. His second medical degree, as I said before, was taken at Aberdeen, and he was suspected of having Jacobite sympathies, which didn't go down well with George I. He left London in 1722 and didn't dare go back for a while, and when he did, his career as a doctor was pretty much over. So he came back to Wales. Still friends with Moses Williams, he worked with him to collect Welsh language manuscripts and have them published. His first wife died at some point, possibly before he returned to Wales, and he remarried. His second wife was Margaret Jones of Tiglin, and their son Alban Thomas Jones Gwyn bought Tiglin and became its squire. Alban Thomas Jones Gwyn was a clergyman and lived at first in Hampshire with his wife, who sadly died in childbirth. He married again, this time to a cousin, Susanna Jones of Tiglin, and he inherited nearby Monachdy Mansion and a lot of money. Part of his property was a harbour at Aberaeron. It wasn't up to much, just an inlet with a few scattered houses, but he saw potential. In 1807 he got an act passed in Parliament to develop the place, which allowed him to completely rebuild the harbour and to collect levies and tolls from the ships using it. The scheme took off and was in fact a roaring success, and the town of Aberaeron was born. After his death, his son, Colonel Alban Thomas Jones Gwynn, continued to work with the architect William Haycock to build the houses that we see today, planned on a grid around Alban Square. So that was the story of 3 lives of 3 men, well, possibly 4, called Alban Thomas, all who contributed something to Wales, saving early Welsh literature and creating a flourishing town which is a popular tourist destination to this day. I hope you found it interesting. Please remember to hit the like button before you go. And as always, thank you for watching.